Well, hello there. This is John from Poor Man's Garage. I probably just got to apologize ahead of time that I'm not very good at making videos, and I'm even worse at editing. But I have a lot of knowledge in here that I'm willing to share with you guys. So basically, this video is about last year during a blizzard. I have an old two-wheel drive tractor, and I was having difficulty with it, and so I was in the market of buying a new tractor, and I wanted basically a heated cab because I'm done freezing my butt off, and a snowblower and all-wheel drive because I don't want to get stuck in the driveway anymore. My driveway's got a big slope, so it makes it more difficult, makes it more challenging. Get down the slope, but getting back up makes it definitely difficult, especially in a blizzard. So I went to the John Deere dealer and I said, well, I'm looking for the smallest compact all-wheel drive John Deere that you guys make. Heated cab with snowblower. Apparently that would be an x738, and I wanted a gasoline. I didn't want diesel. It was x738, so he quoted me a price of $27,000. That's a no for me. So what other are you supposed to do? Well, you got to wait and see if you can find a good used one, obviously. So one popped up in Ohio for $7,500, and that's with tax, and it had a lawnmower, 60-inch lawnmower. I wasn't planning on mowing the lawn with it. I was just going to make it a dedicated snow blowing machine. And so anyways, I went down to Ohio and I picked it up. I brought it back home, and any gearhead will, you take the machine home, and you change the oil for the motor and the oil filter, and you change the hydraulic fluid and the hydraulic fluid filter, and you grease the tractor and look at it from the front of the tractor to the back of the tractor, and you change the spark plugs, and the air filter, and the usual thing that a gearhead does. And so I went through it, and this tractor has 759 hours on it or something like that. And it was the guy that I bought it off. It was the second owner, and it was pretty rough. I mean, it had scratches in it. It was pretty bad. But I'll show you what I used. Basically, all I used is the number 1 compound and a wool pad by 3M, and it came out beautiful. And I didn't work hard at it. I did more covering the tractor than I did buffing on it. But the first thing I did find, besides the scratches and the broken tail lights, and it's one hell of a machine. So if you run into something with that machine, whatever you hit, you're going to crush it. Even at an idle, you're going to go through the walls. It's a very powerful machine. But so what I did find is when I was looking at the machine, is I found that the oil cooler looked like it was plugged up to me. And I couldn't see the radiator at the time, but I could see the oil cooler. And the oil cooler looked like it was plugged up with this like mud or dirt. I don't know what it was. It looked to me like powdered dirt. And so I made up a wand, and I'm going to show you the wand. And on the side of my house, I have I can close a valve and open a valve in the basement, and I can get hot water out of the outside spigot of my house. And you're probably wondering why you want to do that. Well, hot water washes better than cold water, and I hook up my pressure washer to the hot side, so now I got hot pressure washer that I can clean stuff with. Don't use the pressure washer to clean your oil cooler on this John Deere. Just use whatever pressure you got coming out of the garden hose. If it's cold water, so be it. If If it's hot water, it'd be better yet. So let me show you what I was talking about. And not only was the oil cooler plugged up, but the radiator was plugged up. And I can't imagine this thing not having heating issues. And maybe that's why the guy got rid of it, because he's having heating issues. I can't understand how it was cooling. It was so plugged up, it was incredible. I never seen dirt come out of a radiator or oil cooler in my entire life. My driveway had mud on it for a month. It was incredible how much mud came out of the oil cooler and the radiator. So if you got 750 hours on it, on your machine, you might want to check this, because this was incredible. I never seen anything like it. And I don't know if it's like grass clippings in there, or I don't know what it was, but it's real fine. It came out real easy once you were cleaning it. Once I got the wand and I started cleaning it, but it took me about 30 minutes to do it. You got to take your time, and you got to be careful. You don't want to puncture the oil cooler. You don't want to puncture the radiator. So you got to take your time and be careful. And it was just amazing. So anyways, I want to show you what I'm talking about. So on the tractor, on this tractor, this is an x739. And it looks nice now. It didn't look this way before, believe me when I tell you. And so let's see, what's the compound that I used? So the compound that I used to buff this out, and believe me, I've been a body man. I paint my own cars. I do all my own work. I don't let anybody touch anything I have. So anyways, this number 1 3M, okay, number 1 3M. This is a rubbing compound. They got 1, 2, and 3, and you're supposed to use. Well, I got it all right here. I got 1, 2, and 3. It's all up here. So with this, you're supposed to use a whole pad like this. This is 1. So that's all I used. I used this and this, nothing else. That's all I used. This and this. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. It actually cleaned real easy. Whatever this is made out of, it's like butter. It doesn't take nothing to take all the scratches out. And believe me, it was a mess when I got it. It looked like she had ran through the bushes or something with it. I don't know what they did. But so anyways, getting back to the plugged oil cooler and the plugged radiator. So inside here is your oil cooler. And then there's a filter here, a filter for your radiator. So, and there's a screen here. So it sucks air this way, and it's supposed to catch the dirt on the screen. And then if it gets that far, this is supposed to catch it from going into the radiator. Well, it didn't catch the fine stuff. So what I did is I made up a wand. This is just a copper tube. I put a slit in it and I crimped over the end. These are fittings that I had kicking around. Okay, that's all it is. I just put a slit on the end and some fittings, and I got a shut off. I hooked it up to the hot water. And I took it, and you got to remember that the water's going this way, so it's going to push the copper tube that way. It's going to push it this way because the force of the water is going that way. So what I did is I just started cleaning this thing. Up and down, back and forth, up and down, back and forth. And I couldn't believe whatever it was that came out of there. It was just incredible. So up and down, back and forth. And then I took it, and you got to remember that, okay, the water's going this way, so the wand wants to go this way. And that wand fits real nice in there right against that plastic. And, you got to be careful anyways, but it fits real nice against that plastic, and it's going to hold that wand right against that plastic, and you're going to go up and down. You gotta go up and down this way, up and down, front to back. It's gonna take a while. Take your time, wash it. You won't believe the dirt that I guarantee if you got 700 hours on it, this is a big problem. So just take your time, start at the top. You start at the top, all the way in, back. Anyways, you get the idea. You got to take your time and clean it. And so that was one of the major things that I think that was a problem with this. And this is just it's just a made up copper tube with some fittings. No big deal. So then After I did that, and obviously changed the oil and, you know, all the things that a gearhead would do, after that I was looking for a snowblower. So now I got the tractor and I got the lawnmower, but I'm not really interested in cutting the lawn. I want to blow snow. So it just so happened that I started calling around to see what they wanted for snowblowers, you know, the dealers. And one dealer that I called said that he had this snowblower, 2017. He thinks that maybe it was only used a couple of times. Was this snowblower, the quick connect. It had the weight box. It had the weights. It had the front drive shaft, the rear drive shaft, and everything with the PTO shaft, the 2 bearings, the 4 clips, the seals, everything to do it. $2,700, and that's with tax. That's a really good deal. That's a fantastic deal. That's one of them deals you take all day long. $2,700 for everything: weights, weight box, blower, quick connect, hydraulics, everything, PTO, everything. 27. So I get it all home, and I go through it, and you know, put the PTO kit. Here's another thing too, is when you're installing this PTO kit, I see guys hammering the bearings in. You know, they either hammer on the outside of the race or they hammer on the inside of the race. John Deere makes the installation tool to put in that bearing, because you want to be hitting on the outside race and the inside race at the same time, where you could screw up the bearings. John Deere makes a PTO bearing installation tool. They wanted $250 for it. No, you just make one up. I'll show you what I did here. I'll show you. So I got a great machinist. He made up this for me. See, that's all it is. The PTO shaft goes in here. It's all it is. A piece of round stock aluminum. That's all it is. He made it up for me for $40. That's including the material. And so now, what you want is you want to hit on the inside of the race of the bearing and outside race of the bearing at the same time, so you don't damage the bearing. This will also put in your seals. You know, I wouldn't buy the John Deere one for $250. That's crazy. Anyways, that's all it is. You know, and that way when you're tapping in the bearing into the front of the tractor where the PTO goes, they got one bearing on the front and one in the rear, that you're not going to damage the bearing putting it in. Getting back to the snowblower. Okay, so I put the PTO kit in, and I put the drive shaft in, and I grease it all up, and I make sure everything's good, and I put it all together, and I put the hydraulic lines on it, and I hit the PTO, and it made a noise like you wouldn't believe. It's just crazy. It was bad bearings. So the problem is with the John Deeres is they make it, and I don't know if they do it on purpose or not, but they make it so you can't grease the bearings. So what happens is you snow blow in the wintertime, and then in the summertime when you snow blow, the snow turns to water, because you're going to get snow in there. There's no way you're going to get snow in there. And so the water is going to lay on the bottom of the bearing, and then you're going to sit all summer, and it rusts. And then when you use the snowblower in the wintertime, well, that rust, that bottom part of the rust of the bearing, is going to rotate, because all the roller bearings are rolling in there. You're only going to do that so many times. And then things are going to start happening. Like, you might, seize the bearing, and the shaft will be going, and the bearing stops, and sparks and smoke, or some real bad noise like I had. So what I'm going to show you is what they're not going to tell you. And apparently I looked on YouTube, and nobody does it. And I'm like, what's going on here? This is easy. So I'm going to show you how to get a bearing that you get a grease fitting on it, special bearing, not really special. That's just, so the other thing too is the manufacturers of that 52 millimeter bearing. There's about 15 manufacturers that make that bearing, so it's not just John Deere. It's not just There's not just one. There's 15 manufacturers that make the bearings. They make the bearings, John Deere makes them so, let me show you. Let me show you. So you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we go. So this is it. So this is the John Deere bearing here. Let's see, here it is. This is the factory John Deere bearing. All right, this is what it was. The locking collars, you can see that they're rusted. And look at this machine, this snowblower. I don't think it's been used. Maybe it's been used one time. It must have been used one time because the bearings are bad in it. But this thing is like, it's mint. It's never been used. So what happened is they used it once and then it sat. And then the bearings went bad because, well, that's just the way John Deere makes them. So anyways, this is the John Deere bearing. Let's see, I think it says pure. There's a pure bearing. Pure, oh, I can see that here. Focus. Yeah. You'll have to take my word for it. It says pure. There we go. So, can you read that? Anyway, it says pure. There's the... It says China. China. There's the part number. Alright. That's a part number. You can see the numbers on the inside too. So I called up John Deere, and they do got that on the website. So that's what they used originally. It's a factory bearing, factory Chinese bearing. And so here's the retaining. So all this is it's just a retainer. That's all it is, a retainer. So this is a triangle, okay? So this is a triangle retainer, and the bearing sits inside this retainer with a locking collar, like that. Locking collar. It sits like that. All right, locking collar sits in there, so like that. Okay, no way to grease it. Okay. So now what I did is I went. I'll give you the part number here. I picked up, you see it says SSA 205-16. The SS stands for stainless steel. It's the same bearing. Let's see here. I'm going to pull on the package here. I'll show you what I got here. Alright. You see this bearing? See, there's no, what you want is you want a bearing with a hole in it. Some of them have one hole. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a bearing with a hole in it because that's how they get greased. So some bearings have one hole. Some of them you can get, they have 3 holes. Some of them you can get that's got 3 holes and a line all the way through it. And I'll explain to you the reason why you want the bearing with the hole in it. So this is a stainless steel bearing. This is $35. This is stainless steel, so you never have to worry about banging. I see guys hammering off the collars and hammering off the bearing. Well, you don't have to hammer on it because it's not going to rust because it's stainless steel. So you'll notice on this bearing, look it. It's got a hole in it. Look at that, isn't that amazing? It's got a hole in it. See? I'm teaching you guys. I got a lot of knowledge to give. See the hole? Okay. So now you get this. This is the part number here. I'm going to give you guys the part number too. So you get this. The only difference between this here and this factory John Deere retainer is this one's round and it's got a Zerk fitting on it. Look at that. It's got a Zerk. Isn't that amazing? Got a Zerk fitting on it. And this one's a triangle. If you want to make the round one a triangle, then cut it. But this fits everywhere it needs to fit. This fits everywhere. So it doesn't have to be a triangle. See that? Look at that. See now, you see that grease fitting there? I'm going to be the very first guy on YouTube that's going to have a greasable snowblower. Every single one of my, this will go here, you know, right? Every single one of my bearings I'll be able to grease on a snowblower, right? With this one, look at that. It's round. That's not a triangle. Doesn't have to be a triangle. See the grease fitting there? I drilled a hole here with a hole saw. Right? Okay. So now, gotta remember there's gonna be a gear on here. I'm gonna show you. I'll put it all together and I'll show you in the second video. So if the video stops, pick it up in part 2. I'll explain how it's gonna go. So now there's a Zerk fitting on there, and you'll line up that hole. You put a mark in your bearing, and you line that mark up with that grease fitting. Okay. And now I made a hole here. See if I can get this for you. Hold on. Let's see if I can get you an angle so I can actually show you. Be the first guy on YouTube that has a John Deere that you can actually grease the snowblower bearings. All right, here we go. Let's try this. Let's see if it works. All right, so you can't get a locking grease fitting, but you can get a conventional in there. So I'm just going to stick that in there. You got to remember that the gear is going to be here, so you're not going to be able to see it like this. But I'm going to stick it right through there. I guarantee it. And then when I do it, I pull the trigger. Oh, look at that! Grease is coming out of the bearing. Isn't that amazing? It's a freaking miracle. Anyway, so you do that. See the grease coming out? So you do that with this bearing. You line it up so you can get at it. So you be able to get at it here. This one, I'm going to line it up like this. Right? Goes like that. Actually, this is backwards. This has got to go like this. So this is going to go like this. This has to go like this. This has to face. This Zerk fitting is hard to do it one hand. It's going to go like this. See here? Like that. You got to line that up. That's going to go in there like that. Okay? You're going to be able to get the grease gun in here and grease that one. And then this one's going to be here. After I switch it, I'm going to put it here. This one's going to be here. And I'm going to be able to grease all my bearings on my snowblower. And they're going to be made out of stainless steel. Okay. Well, a lot of knowledge I want to share. So if you have a stainless steel bearing, they're not going to rust. So you don't have to worry about the rust problem. If you're able to grease it, now you just took care of the lubricant problem. So with it not rusting and you're able to actually grease your snowblower, every bearing on your snowblower, you never have to replace bearings again. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyways, I'm sure it's something that the John Deere dealer might not like, but anyway, so that's and I'll do it when it's all together, so you're able to see how easy it is for me to grease my snowblower and the bearings, stainless steel bearings. Also, I changed out all the bolts on the snowblower and the tractor with ARP 300 series stainless steel bolts, and the carriage bolts, the ARP doesn't make the carriage bolts. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. People are going to say, well, the stainless steel bolt isn't as strong as the steel bolt. Well, obviously you don't know nothing about ARP bolts. ARP 300 series stainless steel bolts, and those are mostly 8mm. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I forgot to tell you. I'm getting old, forgetting. So this is ARP here, the ARP. So these are stainless steel 8mm carriage bolts. Okay, they're all over the place. That's how this is held together with these carriage bolts. So these carriage bolts I get from this guy. All right, Bell metric. Oh, you see that Bell metric? These are that's not supposed to be that long. These I want to go up through here, and I'm going to put big washers here, stainless steel washers, because the washers that they had from the factory are garbage. So I'm putting, these are not the right ones. These are actually for here. But it's going to be a 1/4 inch, 8mm inside diameter. So when I have to tighten this thing down, it's going to slide real nicely on here. And my nuts won't fit through the slot, because I have this real nice stainless steel 1/4 inch washer that I'm going to machine. So, okay, so these are 8mm. That's what is the factory for the John Deere rusty bolts. That's 8mm, and that's not. This is 8mm by 35. These are not 35mm. Yeah, I see if I can do this one hand. So everybody should have a vernier caliper. So let me show you how to measure these. So everybody should have a vernier caliper. If you're a gearhead, you should have a vernier caliper. This is a vernier caliper. Let's see if I can do this one hand. All right, vernier calipers. All right, this is how you measure a bolt. I don't care what kind of bolt it is. This is how you measure it. So you take your vernier caliper here. Tough to do it one hand, but take your vernier caliper and turn it on. You gotta make sure these are closed. And then you zero it. And you go up to this button here, it says Mickey Mouse, millimeter actually. And you press that. Now the vernier caliper measures in millimeter, or Mickey Mouse. Millimeter. Okay, so then you take your vernier calipers and you go, usually they go from the underside of the head to the outside, underside of the head to the outside. Tough doing it one hand. Be chasing this thing around. All right, so it's going to be a 20. You'd be safe with a 20, so 20mm. So it's 8mm by 20mm. Stainless steel carriage bolt. And get it from these people. So it should be 8mm by 20mm. And then I get nut and bolt deep pot. These are where the nuts come from. It's 8mm, 18/8 stainless, and these are lockers. They got, see the nuts there, they're locking tight. So yeah, so that'll be the bolts for here. It'll be the bolts here. Anytime you see a square there, that's an 8mm square. 8mm by 20mm is a standard bolt for there. Get the 8mm stainless steel locker nuts. So this has been changed here. See, I can't see them, but these, they'll hold the, I don't know what you want to call it, scraper. They've all been changed to stainless steel. Basically every bolt has been replaced. I don't like rust running down my nice yellow paint, and I'm not too happy with when I went to tighten it down. And I'm pretty good at tightening down bolts, but I went to tighten down this factory John Deere bolt, and it broke in my hand. And then I went to tighten down another one, and I could feel it, because then I started to pay attention after I broke one, and I started paying attention to, and they felt very soft. Now, I don't know if I just got a bad batch, but I wasn't going to take any chances, so I replaced everything with ARP 300 series stainless steel. So that's everything's been replaced with ARP 300 series stainless steel. So I apologize for the video being too long. So I'm going to cut now. I'm going to put this thing together. Maybe I should show you a little bit about that. Okay, so when you're putting this part together here, it's got locking collars, and this guy that put it together, I don't know if it's done from the factory or not, but the locking collars weren't locked. So you got to lock the locking collars. So what you want to do is you want to put this gear in the center of this housing. This gear, you want to put this gear in the center of the housing, okay? Center of the housing. It's not moving too good now. There we go. You want to put that gear in the center of the housing, and then when you put this sprocket